And everybody, welcome to our what has become sort of an accidental traditions, which are kind of the best traditions. When you just kind of come to and realize that you're doing something traditionally. But our sort of religion tube Halloween hangout.
And I'm a bloodthirsty demon, clearly.
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of demon you were. A bloodthirsty one specifically.
Yes. I couldn't pick a specific demon because then I would have to be accurate to the sources and it would be too difficult. So
you have to get a whole group of people playing instruments as you come on, like playing horn.
Exactly. It's like it's not practical to
being demons hard
work. Yes, or having different animal body parts. I think that would be a challenge.
Yeah, that'd be a whole genre is Goetia accurate costumes. That would be expensive costumes. You had to hire extras.
Yes. Might take more than one person to fit the costumes as well.
Probably so. Yeah, it's like you to the tape of to get a bunch of people inside of like the old costume of a bunch of people inside of one big jacket. You had to get all the things. Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see folks in the chat. It's good to see everybody in the Brady Bunch boxes.
You guys happy Samhain to everybody who's celebrating.
Yeah, happy Halloween, happy Samhain. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Ghoul, how's the ghoul life?
Ghoul life it's good now, this time of year, because we get to do our thing, but also getting ready to hide my true identity for the rest of the year, which takes some planning, but yeah.
That's difficult. You have to code switch. Hide your true self. No, Zevi, how you been?
How are you guys?
How's the van coming?
The van is coming along nicely. It's I was chatting just with Angela before we went live. It's really nice to do something with my hands in addition to doing something with my brain. So yeah, this is my costume because these days I'm dressed in a lot of diesel covered dirty clothing. So it's been a lot of fun. And I've been streaming that, and I've been fielding theological questions while working on the van. So that might be a first. I've seen a lot of van builds online, but I haven't seen a lot of theology and religious talk, religious studies while vans are being built. So it's nice to mix those two passions of mine, and people seem to be enjoying it. So
are you live streaming? You fixing the van? And
not every day, but a lot of the time I'm live streaming. I had the idea to live stream so this is my second van that I'm working on. I had the idea when I was working kind of quietly myself in the shop, and I'm like, oh, this would be fun to kind of just switch on a camera and chat to people about both what I'm doing here and then get to engage with people's questions and catch up. So I started it this time, and I started from the beginning intentionally. And it's been really great. There's been a kind of a core group of people that have been joining the stream again and again. And there's a handful of people who all share the same first name, Michael. And they all have one of them is a retired engineer. The other one worked in a metal factory. The other one, they're actually really informed about the materials and processes that I'm working with. So I get to turn to my panel of expert Michaels on the live stream. So it feels like a nice way to bring in some creative intelligence from the collective into the work. So it's been a lot of fun.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. How are you, Angela?
I'm okay. I released yesterday a video on the Necronomicon, more specifically the demons in the Necronomicon and how the Necronomicon has become something that esoteric practitioners utilize in their practice. And also the Simon Necronomicon. So I covered all these things, and it was from the idea of one of my patrons, Joao. If you're here, thank you for the idea. So he said, why don't you do a video on the demons in the Necronomicon, because we were talking about covering demons for the month of October. And I think that Lovecraft has definitely been a a big part of my teenage years. So I thought it would be interesting to revisit his work and look more at the characters per se and how they've been used by esoteric practitioners. And also, I always find it interesting how certain elements of, certain things that are not meant to be real esoteric magical things, that they become so because practitioners make them become real in a way. So they start to adopt them in their practices and they report effectiveness. That's not something that I think a lot of people think it's something modern, but it's happened over and over in history. The manuals and texts that were not meant to be esoteric manuals then became esoteric manual.
Like the pseudomonarchia daemonum.
Yeah, daemon. Yes.
Like
I was exactly thinking about yes,
Yeah.
Bayer's pseudomonarchia daemonum, because it's like that was definitely not meant to be that. But then not only it has become an aesthetic manual to people, but also it has become a footprint for later works. So it's not new in history that this happened. So I suppose that my interest, because I'm an anthropologist, not so much in a history and religion, but more an anthropologist, my interest is more, why are certain texts, why practitioners find certain texts more more feasible, to become aesthetic manuals compared to others. So what makes them, sort of what's the term, esotericable?
I think my favorite example of that is the Lilith story from the Alphabet of Ben Sirach. Like that whole story, that entire book was meant as a giant lampoon of rabbinical Judaism. Like it was meant as these are the sort of ridiculous things that rabbis believe. And it was meant to mock rabbinical Judaism, not to be an accurate representation of rabbinical stories. And the Lilith story was meant to be ridiculous, and then people took it seriously. It was meant to be a joke, and then people took it seriously, like as if rabbinical Jews believed that there was this first wife named Lilith and she got thrown out, blah blah blah. No rabbis believe that. And so what was meant to be, what originated as a parody, became like a folk belief and all kinds of other stuff. So it's it's what Freud said, right? Like there's nothing more serious than a joke. That be careful what you joke about, it will become real. So
yeah, but then there are some things and some stories that lend themselves to turn real for people and others that don't. So why, what is it about those stories and those characters that resonates to the point of becoming real for people in their religious and spiritual practice? That's what fascinates me, because it obviously doesn't happen for absolutely everything, but there are some stories, some characters that seem to acquire that quality for people. So the discriminants between the ones that do and the ones that don't is, what interests me. It's like, what is it about them that makes them become real?
Right. No, it's a great story. I mean, the Golem's the same thing. The most famous Golem story had never. Not to say that the most famous Golem story isn't actually a Golem story. The Maharal of Prague Golem story is just like made up in the 19th century by a non-Jew. Never happened. And in fact, the Maharal of Prague was the least likely person in many ways to make a Golem. But what's crazy about that story is that not only is it the most famous Golem story, it has even been reclaimed by Orthodox people as like sort of, what is it called when you you retrofit it back into things? It's a really hilarious arc of that story where that's another example where we conjure things into reality because we want them to be real, whether it's the Necronomicon or the Golem or what have you.
Yeah, I think to both of your points, there's certain stories are playing important psychological roles that really, even if they were written as satire or polemic or fiction, they're that sort of they're touching on something really important that they're almost inevitably going to be adopted as true. I think for the golem example, there's like a real desire, you know, in the psychology of a persecuted minority to want some sort of supernatural protection. Hence, the golem steps in to vanquish their enemies. So there's some sort of deep psychological need that is able to transform something that was never meant to be taken seriously, because it's serving not a purpose historically per se, but it's serving, I think, a deep, like psychological, like a collective psychological need.
No, I think that's right. Dan couldn't join us. The modern hermeticist couldn't join us, but he has a highlight question for all of us.
You're in spirit.
In spirit. What's your greatest fear in the world of the occult / the esoteric? I'll tell a funny story to introduce this question. Is that when I was in the Library of Alexandria during the Egypt tour, one of the sections in the library is their manuscript collection, and they have all kinds of stuff in there. And one of the things they had in there was a copy of the Shams Amarif. And the librarian who was giving us the tour, she introduced all these books, and she got all this very intimate knowledge of all these books. And then she got everything. She said, this is books of astrology, and here's this, and she skipped over the Shams Amarif. And I'm like, of all the books to skip over, like and she's like, I hate that book.
Oh,
like it creeps me out. I don't even want to I don't even want to say the title of it.
Wow.
And so she was like, you know, like did not like to be in proximity to it or even say the name of the book. So
yeah, that checks out given its reputation, and of course I have my the story that I've told in these Halloween live streams before of falling asleep with my hand on the Shams al-Ma'arif and having a bunch of nightmares. That was more funny than scary though. So I don't know. I feel like because I'm quite a skeptical person when it comes to these things, I think anything that what really scares me is because I have a certain level of a need for control over my own mental world. Like the idea of losing control of myself, or like going, like to put it in very like simple terms, like going crazy myself. That's something that sort of scares me. I don't know what that necessarily means, but there's some sort of fear that I have of that.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear would be similar. I think the idea of not being able to control a spirit or an entity, you know, sort of losing control over what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is why it's important to be careful.
But ghosts are also scary.
I'm not so scared of ghosts.
Depends, I guess.
Zevi, you have any occult anxieties?
The only one that's coming to mind is fears of people taking the material too seriously or too literally. I see a weird thing happen where people use their theologies or their esoteric or occult beliefs to paint the other in a demonized forms in one way or the other. So the other becomes the vampire, the ghoul, the ghost, and I think that there's like something of an overlay where one's beliefs, particularly when there's the capacity for supernatural evil, becomes superimposed on another section of humanity. And I guess that's not unique to occultism and esotericism, but maybe with all of the scary monsters that we conjure, when those get too real and we start to use them against our neighbor politically and socially, that's my fear. Maybe that's a bit of like a zoomed out meta fear in relation to these subjects, but that's what comes to mind.
You're being very sociological. Makes sense though. I was messaging Andrew Henry from Religion for Breakfast the other day, and I always think that in his videos he adopts very much a sociology of religion type of lens. So I find it very interesting because I think that he tends to adopt an angle to analyze things that would be different from the one that I would adopt, and that's why I find it interesting. Because you can see different from, so you can look at the same phenomenon from so many different perspectives. So
What would you say is your starting point?
mine, I think my approach tends to be more anthropological. In my videos, it is sometimes more historical when I cover, when I do an overview of what has been written on a specific topic, then I suppose that's more historical. But generally speaking, in my research and the way that I think about certain research questions, it's more anthropological. So I focus more on the meaning for the person and the practice, and as opposed to the effect they has on society, or the potential for societal reason to to affect why people behave in a certain way, which is also very reasonable way to look at things. I think that's why maybe one thing that scares me is only seeing things from one perspective only. I'm a big advocate of always trying to see things from multiple perspectives. And I know that we all may have our favorite lens to look at the world through, but it's also, I think, good for everybody to fight that laziness that we have and say, okay, this is my approach, but let's also look at this phenomenon from, or what's happening from a different lens, different from the one that I'm used to. So that's one of the problems that I have with I published recently a video on why science cannot prove magic. And one of the problems that I have with that is that obviously science, natural science that is, uses a reductivist approach by design. So a reductivist approach is phenomenal to analyze everything that is material, tangible, measurable, but it's not equipped at all to study things that go beyond the material side. So the only thing that the natural science method and the reductivist method can study and are even interested in studying is the physicality of things. So because this reductivist approach has been so incredible, in allowing us to understand everything that is physical, there are people that assume that it's going to be good to understand every possible thing. Like, why do we love this person? Let's look at the biochemistry. As obviously you can never find, I would argue you can never find, maybe you can disagree and you're very free to disagree with what I'm saying, but I don't think you will ever find a reductivist scientific explanation as to why you fall in love with a specific person or you're attracted to that specific person. So, and at the same time, I don't think that it is possible to study magic with the method of natural science, because the way that it works goes completely beyond the physical side. It's more holistic, and it involves all sorts of things that are not standardizable and are also very relative to the person and circumstances and place. And so it just really eludes standardization and all the other parameters that are absolutely necessary for something to be inquired by natural science. So that is my argument. So I suppose that thinking about that, it makes me think about, as human beings, we have the tendency to, when something works in one sphere of reality or our experience, then it has to work for everything. That's the key. We found it. It's the key. Like, it's the key theory, is the secret, and you can apply to everything. And in my opinion, that's never going to work, because I think the different aspects of reality can only be understood in their own way. I don't think that there is one key, one secret. I also have problems like with evolutionary psychology. I don't know, it bothers me. Evolutionary psychology, that's another example. Like, the evolutionary theory is so great for biology, but personally I think it's so incredibly problematic when it is applied to social sciences. So that's another example. So this idea that you've got one thing that works in one realm, that's it. We're gonna use it for everything, and it's gonna work, and it's gonna be perfect because because if it's perfect in that one realm, then it's gonna be automatically effective in every single other realm of reality. And I have an issue with that because I think that's intellectual laziness.
That's fair.
Wow. Justin?
It's interesting that you mentioned earlier about ghosts being scary, and it's funny to talk about the fear with the cult stuff. And I think of ghosts being scary not in themselves, but what they represent. That I think my single greatest fear is that there's an afterlife. There's nothing that terrifies me more. Like the one thought, no matter how bad things appear to me, the one thought that I can always go to is, at one moment, 10 to the 100 years from now, the last proton will decay. Like that's going to happen eventually, probably, assuming that proton decay is real. We've never observed it yet, but the idea that I would have to come back in any form whatsoever, whether it's like the Olam Haba or reincarnation or whatever, that is I didn't consent to be here. Like this is already bad. But the idea that I would have to come back if I ever saw a ghost or became convinced that ghosts were somehow people that were, they couldn't move on or something like that. I don't know. I would that would be the worst possible circumstance.
What do you dislike about it?
Oh, existence is terrible.
So you don't like to exist then?
There's no greater burden than existence. It's the single greatest burden imaginable. Everything else is a commentary to the burden of existence.
Oh God, Justin.
So do you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my God, this is such a burden to exist? Does it mean that you find relief in sleeping, for instance, because then you forget that you exist?
No, because then the idea that I'm going to wake up and do this again. No, it's not like these, like it's the kind of thing that you can't complain about it. Like that's not gonna do, and there's no reason checking out soon, right? Like Camus said, right, that all suicide is a confession. So you can't, that's not the thing to do either. But yeah, it's just like, no, sometimes what's that scene in, is it Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre, where the guy's sitting on the bench looking at the tree, and that's like I'm looking outside of the tree and I'm like, there it is. The brute reality of existence. So I'm not in any desire to exit out of existence, but I am pretty perpetually aware of the fact that I didn't consent to be here. And yeah, a ghost, that would be the worst. Like demons are fine. I'm like, oh, there's metaphysical entities. I'm like, sure, great. Like it would be the least surprising thing that there were gods or angels or demons or whatever. That would be completely unsurprising. But ghosts are singularly horrifying for what they represent.
I love where this question took all of us.
I don't experience existence the way you do, Justin, but I can sympathize with the idea of an afterlife existing and us being around, I guess, essentially forever as a conscious entity. That sounds pretty awful to me as well. Just the idea of it's never going to end. Like I'm just gonna have to do this forever. That's quite terrifying.
Yeah. No. People describe heaven. You're like, yeah, you get to go to a special place full of light and sing all the time. This is horrible. Who came up with this? Like, what demented, sadistic person derived, or you get to go, have every depiction of the afterlife I've ever read. I'm like, you got to go fight in this battle at the end of time, and you're going to all lose. Or you have to go to the other place, and there's like houris there. Who cares about that? Like, that just sounds like performance anxiety. Like there's no part of these like you have to go to the academic sky and go debate the rest of existence. And I'm like,
oh wow.
Have you seen these like supercuts on like Instagram where it's like a guy walks into a gym and he looks over here and it's like people doing crazy pull-ups, and he looks over there and there's some guy like flipping over doing jumping jacks, and you're like, this is the craziest gym. I do that when people describe the afterlife. I'm like, you're not selling this, guys. Like, none of this is selling. So yeah, ghosts. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Phil, there's something about the idea that like one day our galaxy is going to collide with Andromeda, and all this is going to be gone. Like, none of this is going to survive that. The Earth won't be around by that time anyway. Probably they'll collide around 5 billion years from now. But the idea that ghosts might have to stick around floating in space,
Yeah,
like,
that sounds pretty
fighting
awesome.
battles from the Civil War after your planet's been long wiped out, 5 billion years later. Yeah,
there is a part, I forget if I could be misremembering, but I feel like there's a part in Ibn Sina where he is arguing against the idea of bodily resurrection, because, and I haven't read this in years, so I'm probably misrepresenting him, but one of the arguments being, well, there can't be a bodily resurrection, because if we have to take these bodies to paradise and do all these things we're doing right now, that sounds awful. That can't be paradise. Regardless of if it's a body that's perfect, it's like anything that's like physical comes with some level of I don't know, like suffering or boredom. So
Right.
The afterlife has to be something completely different.
That seems like a reasonable. I love the all the questions around marriage in the afterlife. Those are my favorite ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have a wife and she dies, and you get another wife and you go to heaven, like, who are you married to?
Right.
And if the answer is none of them, that sounds terrible. And if the answer is the second one, then the first one's going to be pissed. So I just like I like these like scenarios it'd be funny to see a video of them playing out these kind of scenarios, these afterlife paradoxes that are great.
What do you guys think that how do you find meaning in your life? Like, when you have moments that are difficult, or you wonder, what do I do all this for? How do you find meaning in your life?
I'm the opposite of Justin, I think, because I feel like when I just sit down and look at the tree outside and not try to project any kind of particular wishes or opinions on the tree, just experiencing it as it is, then I find existence to be pretty beautiful and meaningful. So that's one thing, but also, I don't know, it's a difficult question. I found a lot of meaning in relationships with other people. That's a very short answer. I'll keep thinking.
What about you guys? Where do you find the meaning of your life? For Justin, it's definitely not religious or spiritual. I'm assuming, or not in the strict sense.
I find meaning in my life most often when I'm able to be of service to others. If there's some way that I can, lighten someone else's burden or share something, and there is a sense, like Philip is saying, where that's relational, because all of those are forms of relation, even if they're momentary or fleeting. But that's often where, and I try and orientate my life towards ways that I can. I think getting into teaching, in my early 20s was a way of pursuing that form of meaningfulness for me.
Justin, what about you?
Yeah, I guess I've never had one of these like existential crisis moments. Just like you just have to work. You have to like work, and you don't get to stop until you die. And like you don't have an option not to do it. And avoiding existential crisis is like a weird bourgeois luxury. So I don't think I've ever had one. But I think, this question of meaning, that it only becomes a problem. There's two things. One, if there's any meaning at all, then we're all slaves. Like, if there's any inherent meaning to reality, then we're slaves to that. That's
to
all.
That meaning.
To that meaning. So if there's built-in meaning, that's like an a priori, not just a priori, it's a metaphysical norm. And that's slavery. That's metaphysical slavery, which is awful. So, and on the other hand, if everything is just meaningless, that seems bad at first until you realize that the very fact that everything is meaningless is itself meaningless. And so this question becomes just a non-issue.
That sounds just sophism to me.
Well, it's just,
I don't
mean,
think that if there is a meaning, it necessarily means that that's an inherent meaning to life that we are all enslaved to, because the meaning of life can be personal. So in that sense, it's not an inherent quality of life that you've got to be enslaved to. It's more like
it's just your individual
the,
shackles.
Yeah, it's more the individual, the way that the individual finds meaning and I suppose motivation to do the things that they do. So I wouldn't qualify that as an inherent meaning of life in a broad and universal sense, but more in the sense that given that life is difficult, I think we all would agree on that. Perhaps finding meaning in something allows people to carry on and have motivation and even find passion in the things that they do. Maybe it's because I have existential crisis ever so often, so I ask myself these questions. I had an existential crisis when I was I do often. Well, periodically. I had one in the early stages of my PhD, and I started thinking, like, what am I doing all this for? Even if I were like the most brilliant researcher and published the most significant research, in 50 years it's already gonna be outdated, and then I'm gonna be dead anyway. And then at some point, nobody is gonna read it. So what am I doing this for? And then by analyzing these questions, I realized that I was focusing a lot on the duration of things as part of the meaning of them. Then I realized maybe it doesn't matter the duration of things, and it doesn't necessarily matter the impact, whether it's going to have a global impact or just a personal impact. Maybe what matters is my journey doing that, my experience of doing it. And so that's how I overcame the depression, the mid PhD life crisis.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
very much with Kohelet. It's just like you do the best you can and you get by, and then it's not going to matter because nothing's going to matter in the end. But that just, I guess, like I said, it's never bothered me. I was like, that's trivial. Of course, that's true. Like in 5 billion years from now, the sun's going to expand rapidly or relatively rapidly and swallow up the earth probably. Like that's going to happen, but that doesn't matter. I don't know. It does that kind of stuff never. But I've never been the kind of person to look up at the night sky and go, "Oh, this is all meaningless." It never. That stuff never bothered me that much. Like I said, I've never. But maybe I just haven't had an existential crisis yet.
Have you guys ever had an existential crisis?
Oh yeah,
every day.
There's like I'm having one right now. I do competitive existential crises.
Of course.
I speed run them.
They're good, right? You have to question yourself, and you have to ask yourself these questions, which is good for growth, even if sometimes there isn't any clear answer. Usually, I would say there usually isn't any clear answer to the questions. It's funny. I actually gave a lecture on Tuesday about the meaning of life, but specifically, it's the same lecture that I already gave a few years ago, and it's on my channel. Like it's a lecture in Swedish, but it's specifically from the perspective of the Abrahamic religions, which in itself doesn't really say anything. So I focused specifically on like the mystics and particularly Ibn Arabi and some Kabbalah stuff. But that's not necessarily my opinion on what meaning is. So I don't know. It changes from moment to moment for me sometimes. But I've always had a sort of inherent sense of things being meaningful. And also, I relate very much to what Zevi was saying, and we've spoken about this before too, about being of service to others and also working as a teacher in particular, because that's what I was talking about in terms of relationships. and this might sound a bit it's a bit out there maybe, but it's a sense of meaning that's not really conceptual. I'm sounding like a mystic, but it really like a very apparent sense of the meaningfulness of something that I'm doing, especially in being in service, for example. That I can't put into words so that I can explain, but it's just this very obvious sense that there is meaning and that I'm participating in, or that I'm given the privilege of participating in meaning in some way. But I don't know.
Seems like two different questions. It seems like there seems like a motivation question, and then there seems like a deeper question. And I'm wondering, like, if you ask me what motivated me, then I can give you very concrete but very boring answers. Like, I got to put food in my kid's mouth, and I like nice stuff, and I don't even have bourgeois taste. I have aristocratic taste. So I'm just like skip over the bourgeoisie entirely. Like, I want to own estates. I don't want to own a factory. Like,
You're
I'm an
very
aristocrat.
materialistic.
Oh, yeah,
The meaning of Justin's life is material belongings.
It kind of is. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not like, yeah, it's like want cool stuff and to do cool stuff and be around cool people, and that's the kind of stuff that motivates me. But if someone were to ask me, why are you doing all this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm a biological marionette driven by forces that I don't control.
So you are enslaved to that then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that is terrible.
Oh yeah, no. I think it's
according to your prior.
But so it's terrible if you think that there's a need for you to be outside of it. I mean, I'm really a Lacanian. You have to come to enjoy your symptoms. You know, like, there's no curing the symptoms. You have to come to enjoy them. So then that way, I'm a very Lacanian. Like, it's if you're going to be in shackles, then you need to be into enjoying
golden
the shackles.
Yeah, I think another way to split the question is in addition to what you're saying, Justin, is people think of meaning of life as a question of ultimacy. Like, what is the solution to the universe? Like, what's the number at the end of the equation kind of meaning of life, you know, versus what I'm hearing Philip saying, which is a much more experiential, perhaps existential, phenomenological. What is it that feels meaningful to me? And in that sense, I think it's similar to what you're saying in terms of what's motivating one through life, because that can be a motivating factor. But I think there's also a distinction to me there, because there are many motivators, right? We're motivated by fear, by hunger, by necessity, by you know, all kinds of things. But then there's a specific part of that equation which is a lived experience, a sense of meaningfulness, which is not, and I think this is what all of us are indicating here, is not some sort of big one world answer for everyone at all times, and neither is it, as you're saying, Angela, something that needs to an answer that needs to last forever for it to be valid. But in terms of like what is, and I think part of that shift, you know, there's a very modern approach to that. I think in the literature that we look at from antiquity and the Middle Ages and where else, people are looking for big, you know, one-stop shop solution answers to these kinds of questions of ultimacy. And I think, you know, the turn to the individual, the turn to the momentary is very much reflected in this desire to find meaningfulness in our own lived experience, even if it's not going to be extrapolated for others or for future time to come.
I think that's right. I think that's a helpful way of splitting the question again. Dan said he was asking a less grandiose question. He was asking us what do you think? What is the scariest creatures?
We ended up
I know the answer. I know that answer to that. After teaching all this,
scariest creature for Angela was methodological one-sidedness.
Yes.
That's funny. No, the thing that having taught this, I've been teaching this Hechel literature class. It's without any doubt angels. Like the angels of the Hechel are without a doubt the most. Yeah. I'd rather deal with any other creature than a Hechelot angel. They're just horrible. They're just like Cenobites on PCP, just real scary. I'd rather deal with, you know. So yeah, these Hechelot. I mean, I was like reading a description of them the other day where it's just like, why would you want? it's so funny because the whole thing is like, oh, you can learn the Torah really fast if you just do all this stuff and go through all these horrifying ordeals with all these things. And I'm like, just study. Just read a book. You're not going to be ripped to shreds by some Cenobite pinhead angel if you just read. Probably. What a crazy way of all the ways of trying to like cheat code a problem. Like,
that's funny.
Again, like, guys, you're not selling it. But
you know, Justin, people have been afraid of biblically accurate angels. You have to start a new horror genre, which is rabbinically accurate angels.
Yeah. Yeah. That they're much more scary.
But they go hard. Yeah, they go hard.
They go real hard. So I don't know. Anybody scared of vampires and stuff?
Not really.
Goblins, ghouls.
There is there's an inherent like Swedish fear in me that's sort of ingrained, I think, from my childhood. There are two creatures that I always found kind of scary. One of them is the mare, because it's essentially a real thing, even though like it's sleep paralysis, and sleep paralysis is terrifying. But there's also a creature in Swedish folklore. It's called Näcken. I don't know what that is, what the name is in English. But it's this guy, I think, or this creature that sits by lakes in the forests of Scandinavia, playing beautiful music, and he's naked. So his name Näcken means like the naked guy, kind of. But he plays music that's so beautiful that anyone who just happens to hear a few notes of it becomes completely entranced, and they have to go toward the sound. And when they reach him, he basically like eats them and pulls them down into the water. And that's kind of scary.
Zev, you scared of anything, Dybbuk?
Not so much. Firstly, I'm not. I was never like and I kind of wonder how this room amongst us is split, but I was never like a fantasy kid or a Lord of the Rings or Dungeons and Dragons. So I never indulged that sort of imagination for the beautiful and the terrible so much in my own kind of coming of age, and I don't indulge as an adult in like horror or like even thriller. Like I just don't. I don't have a bone in my body that appreciates any of that. So I'm not so much in touch with like I haven't allowed myself to enter into the imagination that would be like frightened by any of these creatures, and maybe to my own detriment, but that's just my disposition. I haven't gone there. So I'm not really afraid of any of it, mostly for like lack of trying.
Angela, you got any spookiest creatures?
I don't think that I'm scared of any spooky creatures. I was as a child, because especially in Italian old style homes, they have this dark wooden furniture that has I don't know how to explain it. You know, this sometimes shaped as sort of little animals that could appear as demons to children. So when I was a child, I was scared that, you know, they were sort of demons trapped in the wood or something, and they would come at me at night. So when I was a child, I had a kind of you know, worries, but not now. So I don't think that there are any particular entities that I find scary. I think that there are entities that I find dangerous. I think, for instance, Solomonic demons and the voodoo loa. There are entities that I think are difficult to deal with because they are very, you know, practitioners. When they work with them, they say that these entities tend to be more engrossed in the physical world, which in a way makes them appealing to practitioners, because when an entity is very tonic, very rooted in the material world, it means that if you work with them, you're going to get results very quickly, and, you know, more than you would if you were to work with an entity that's a bit more transcendent. But at the same time, they are so in love with the materiality of the word, that if they can have an effect on other things, then practitioners report that, you know, that effect can also translate into having an effect on you and, you know, your physicality. I suppose that when practitioners describe working with entities that are very rooted in the material world, it sounds a bit scary, because when they have a strong hold on the physical world to the point where practitioners can achieve things in their magical practice, then sometimes that also backfires, because, you know, the same rooting could also potentially be on your physical body.
It's like when you borrow money from gangsters. It's really easy to get. It's really easy to get money from gangsters. They'll gladly lend you money. The problem is you just borrowed money from gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like
metaphysical
gangsters.
I think that's why a lot of people tend to like demons and these kind of entities, because I think that at least based on what practitioners tend to report, it's in a way easier to get results, physical results, and even very tangible results when working with certain entities. But then they are more complicated to deal with compared to others that might have not as big results, but that's because they have less of a hold on the physical world.
Yeah. What have you guys been reading aside from stuff to make content?
I've been reading Agrippa. I think I sent you a few.
Oh yeah,
pages.
What has you reading a corny grips?
Well, you partly inspired me last year with your wonderful lecture series, and so I got, after having listened to that, I got the 3 books, Eric Perdue's translation, and then I kind of felt like October would be the perfect time to read it. So I've been trying to work on my way through that. I'm only like halfway through the second book though, so.
You got through the first book. The worst is behind you.
Okay. Yeah, the second one feels lighter already.
Yeah, the first one's just ridiculous most of the time. Like, and here's a fish that can hold a ship back.
Right.
And you're like, Agrippa, stop with the fish.
Yeah, it was interesting, certainly.
Yeah. Agrippa, wow.
Also been reading. I did an episode on alchemy, so I've been reading up on some of that stuff, partly Principe's book, but also some primary literature, especially the Islamic figures like Ibn Umayl and Ibn Arabi and so on. So it was a fun project to work on.
That was a great video. Fantastic video.
Thank you. How about you?
I've moved on from books. I'm just reading the dictionary. It has all the words in it. No, I've been getting back into the Song of Songs. I've been reading it with a study partner and just really moving slowly through the text and trying to really feel into it. So that's been my pleasure. That's been my non-work read. On the work end, I've been reading a bunch of Ibn Gabriel and Ibn Gabriel scholarship for a series I've been doing on him together with my friend John Vervaeke. And
is that for YouTube or for some other?
It's YouTube, yeah. So that's on John's channel. It's a series of dialogues we've been having on Ibn Gabriel, and we just finished our 3rd one. And so that's been Ibn Gabriel, and then we're ramping up next for some Philo of Alexandria. So that's on my professional reading, and on my personal reading, Song of Songs.
Zoe, didn't if I remember correctly, didn't you dedicate a large chunk, if not all, of the Song of Songs to memory at some point in your?
So in certain Jewish communities, there's a custom to read the Song of Songs every Friday before Shabbat. It's not a custom of the community that I grew up in, but it's a custom that I took upon myself at a certain point in my life, and then just reading it every week. I could recite it from memory at this point. It's not a long text all in all, It's an exquisitely beautiful text, and the more, I mean, I've read it hundreds of times at this point probably, but the more I read it, the more enigmatic and the more mysterious it just keeps like opening up. So I would love to do like some kind of like YouTube like video or class or series on it at some point, but I would have to think about how to do that appropriately. But yeah, it's a magnificent text that I keep coming back to, and a text which is really, I joke that it's the Bible for the Kabbalists, and it really is.
I mean, we're going back to the beginning of our conversation where we talked about texts that weren't meant to be esoteric and became esoteric. I mean, in many ways, the Song of Songs became the most esoteric text. I mean, it's like so much so that it couldn't even be translated into the vernacular and stuff.
Yeah, which is funny because, for many scholars, it was just actually a very terrestrial, mundane love poem that was never supposed to be part of the sacred literature and becomes, hundreds of years down the line, the most sacred. I mean, the amount of quotations from amongst the Kabbalists that are from the Song of Songs, probably, I would love to see someone like tally up, even just titles of Kabbalistic works. So many of them are derived directly from phrases of Song of Songs. It's very much become esotericized, and it lends itself to that because of how enigmatic, and I mean, half the time you don't even know who the speaker is of any given verse. So it really lends itself to the mystery. So yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, it is. What are you reading, Angela?
Work-wise, I'm reading Ante's Religious Experience Reconsidered, because we're doing a study group with Rancep on that. And also, I've been reading Esotericism and Deviance, edited by Manon and Hedenborg White and Tim Rockberg, I think. And another one called Hidden Intercourse, which is on eros and sexuality in the history of Western Esotericism. It's a topic that interests me a lot, but I don't make a lot of videos on that because YouTube doesn't like the topic. So my very few videos on the topics of sex magic have got, they've been demonetized, and then I got the sense that YouTube started suggesting my videos to different type of audience. So I just stopped making those kind of videos, but it is a topic that interests me. But I suppose besides work, the type of books that I read are more like about pole dancing or flexibility stuff, things that are more practical. So in that sense, I'm like Devi, that I always find that to have a balance, I need to have a balance between the intellectual and the physical. So if I engage too much in intellectual matters, then I feel the need to feel embodied and to do something with my body. So I don't like to spend my all day just pursuing intellectual matters. So I need to balance things out, and I feel that it helps both. I think that it also helps my intellect when I feel embodied in some way. And I don't think that mind and body are separate. I think that they really are one and the same. So they both need care.
Agree.
Yeah, if I don't move my body or get some workout in, then my mind doesn't work properly. So I totally get that.
Totally.
Yeah, that's why I spend so much time in the gym. And when I'm sick like this and I can't get to the gym, I feel weird. Like you feel like you're not.
What do you like doing at the gym?
Just to do the power lifts, just like the mission of power lifts and the Gemara of all of the commentary lifts. So it's like it's deadlifts, bench press, squats, pull-ups, and then everything else is commentary.
How many pull-ups can you do?
It really depends. It really depends on the day. I think if I had to go like one rep, I mean, I'm not super strong, but I think if I just want one rep and just like went to failure, I'd probably get 25, 30.
Wow. I
think
see
I've
a
got
new subject for a live stream. We could have a chin up. We could have a pull up contest.
pull-up contest. No, I see these guys in the gym with like big chains on their neck and like
Oh, wow.
weights chained to them and pulling pull-ups and like really like extended, really far out pull-ups. It's really, that stuff's impressive.
But that's a nice amount, Justin. 20. You said 25, 30. That's a nice amount.
I mean, the most I've ever done in one go, I think, was like 28. And like, I think I had, you know, if I'd have had, you know, some encouragement, I probably could have squeezed out a couple more. But
that's a good number.
also, I'm not lifting heavy. I'm not trying to like go in there and because that, you know, I'm in like my 40s. You go in there and deadlift too much, that's it. You're in the hospital. You know, and you always see guys in January come in for the first time. You know, they're like near the gym, and you're like, all right. And you watch them like go and do like squats, and they put like, you know, 3 45s on there, and I'm like, yep, they'll be here today, but they won't be here tomorrow. But how am I reading these days? I think I try to read fiction because I'm very bad at fiction. I find it very difficult to read fiction. But one of the things I've been reading recently is there's this new collection of short stories that take place in the universe of Stephen King's The Stand. The Stand is one of these books I think is like one of the great American epics. Like there are not many American epics. We're not really, you know, it's like Blood Meridian and a couple other like, you know, stuff like that. But it's interesting going back into a world that I'd read The Stand a couple of times and reading stories that take place within that world. Like it's kind of a fun fan fiction kind of thing. I finished reading a book on Asherah, which is like fascinating. And like it's interesting her story arc going from this sort of ancient Near East goddess to being somewhat demonized or being literally demonized. And then her story arc coming back into the Kabbalah where she's re-divinized. And it's really crazy to see like in the Zohar where they're like, yeah, Asherah is the Shekhinah. And you're like, what the fuck? It's so subversive. It's just heretical. You're like, it's like I remember reading that. It's like I'm looking for someone to spit on the ground. And you're just like, my God, these people are out of control. This is great. But because like even in the Bible, like they go to every length to like spell her name in ways that like make fun of her. They give her a masculine plural noun, like Asherin, like just to like mess her gender up on misgendering her on purpose. And so it's just that's fascinating, but you know, fascinating story arc for this goddess. What else have I been reading? I feel like I have a pile of stuff. Oh, I've been reading this book on sorry, my brain fog, on fundamental ontology, which is a question that I don't know, I come back to like every 3 or 4 years where I'm like, all right, I'm going to restart this conversation on fundamental ontology. But there's a book sort of on the history of fundamental ontology, and then I've been also reading this book on quantum mechanics and metaphysics, which is one of these interesting things that I don't think that people talk about enough. Is that Aristotle made this really great point that there is no metaphysics which is not an extension of physics. Like all metaphysics is by definition tethered to physics. And he makes really good arguments as to why that must be the case. Like metaphysics can't fundamentally contradict physics. And one of the interesting things that I think is underdeveloped, and I've seen a couple of quantum like scientists who do quantum mechanics say this, is that we don't have a metaphysics that actually explains quantum mechanics. That there just isn't a functioning metaphysics that can do that, because basic stuff like space and time, well, time less so, but space for sure, whatever that means in the classical sense of the way we use those terms, don't make any sense down there. And so it's a really fascinating project to try to build out what do we talk about when we talk about causality, you know, at that register. Because if our metaphysical, if the things we believe about the metaphysics of the world don't agree fundamentally with the physical reality that we know exists, we have good experimental evidence to believe it exists, then we kind of don't have either. Like we don't have a grasp on either one actually, because we need some metaphysical language to explain what's going on down there. But also, if our metaphysical language is untethered from what's going on down there, we don't have a real metaphysics either. By definition, it's metaphysics. And so it's just a fascinating question that I feel like the book is great because it's a lot of math and a lot of like bracket notation, and it's pushing me well past the limits of how much I know about quantum mechanics and how much I understand the theory at the mathematical register. So it's like really great experience of metaphysics. I have a firm grasp on, quantum mechanics not so much, but trying to put those into a conversation is just, I don't know. It's really been, it's that sort of beginner's mind thing where it's like, oh yeah, like I don't understand what's happening here. And not only do I understand, I deeply don't understand what's happening here. Which is a nice break from a world where I feel like I have a good command of the literature that I work in. If I want to read alchemy, I have a pretty good command of that literature. I look at this, I'm like, okay, I just read 3 sentences and I'm not sure what's happening anymore. So that's a really lovely feeling. The experience of sustained ignorance.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's just like technically, I think a really interesting question. So, what are you guys' Halloween plans? What are you doing?
Watching some movies as usual.
What's your movie breakdown this year, Philip?
For tonight, I'm thinking there's that new film. It's called Weapons.
Oh, that's great.
By the guy who did Barbarian. I forget his name or their name. So that one is available on streaming. So I've been wanting to watch that, and then I want to watch the Nosferatu remake thing they did last year, which I haven't seen yet.
It's fantastic.
And then we'll see. Usually there's on Halloween night like this, usually like 3 movies, and I usually end with some old classic, probably like 1930s Universal horror thing. I don't know which one, but those 2 I think are the ones we're gonna try.
Nice. Those are great. I just watched Weapons the other night, actually. It's funny, my brother and I both watched it the same night without knowing we were watching it. One man's coincidence is another man's synchronicity. Angela, what you got planned?
Cursing my enemies? No. Maybe.
They might deserve it.
I know.
You've been wronged. I wouldn't fault you for it.
So no, I'm going to see a band that I really like with Jenny, Dr. Jenny Butler from the University College Cork. I think a lot of people probably know her. She researches Irish paganism. So I'm seeing her, and we will go and see the Birthday Massacre together, which is a band that we both love. And in fact, she's the one who introduced me to this band, and then I got obsessed, and like for a year or so, I was almost exclusively listening to them. I'm really excited about that. Both seeing Jenny and seeing the Birthday Massacre together. I'll have to have a different type of makeup and attire to match their style. She's more like purple, purple black.
Nice. Zevi, you having spooky Shabbos?
It's funny because I don't, I didn't grow up engaging with the rituals and practice of Halloween so much in my Hasidic upraising. I think the first time that I trick or treated was actually with Justin.
True, yeah, and it snowed. It snowed. It was a Halloween miracle.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful family experience and community experience, and I so appreciated all of it. So that was my introduction. Tonight is Shabbos. It's Friday night, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing here Shabbos myself. There aren't that many people here in community to be with, but I'm actually looking forward to it. I've gotten a rundown of all of the halachot, of all of the practices that I need to do. I need to leave the light on outside. I need a amount of candy for each child. So I'm waiting to this is the first time that I'm going to be giving candy myself for Halloween. So it's a big responsibility. And if anyone has any tips on proper etiquette for it, but I'm looking forward to seeing the kids of the neighborhood, to see their costumes and to enjoy the festivities of Halloween and Shabbos together with them. So I think, and otherwise I'll just be sitting here reading something dense while I'm waiting for people to come collect candy. What are the etiquette, guys? Tell me what I need to know for my first independent Halloween trick or treat hosting.
Well, Justin is probably the most knowledgeable, given he's American.
Yeah, you can't give out bad candy, so you have to get the good candy with like Reese's Pieces and Snickers. You don't have to give out entire candy bars, but definitely the miniature versions.
Yeah, I went to pick up candy and I tried picking up things that didn't have any peanut butter because I don't know I don't want to give kids peanut butter. I mean, presumably they'll know, but I thought to be on the safe side, I'll get. Is that a rookie mistake of mine, Justin?
I don't know. I guess it depends on what the neighborhood is. I think that like Reese's Pieces, at least the Reese's peanut butter cups for me at least are the peak of Halloween candy.
Uh-huh.
I went to a house and there was no peanut butter cups. I would be like, all right, they're marking this one down for a trick.
I've already messed up. You're saying I've already.
All right. There's still time. The gates are still open. Yeah, don't give out like people who give out like fruit, or there always used to be people that'll give out like toothbrushes. Like,
oh no!
Yeah,
arrest them.
Yeah, this is like bad. But no, it's funny because we are going trick or treating tonight, but there was like this this whole debate about, can you go trick or treating on Shabbos? What if you went trick or treating inside of an Eruv? And they were like, this descended into classic Pilpul Hilchot Halloween. So now we're gonna go do Shabbos at a friend's house, and then all the Jewish kids will run through the neighborhood and go trick or treating. So
nice.
I think that's what we're gonna do.
In halachic jargon, we would call this Halloween shecholias b'Shabbos, Halloween that falls out on Shabbos. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? It's really there are technical questions here.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah, it's even more technical than normal. But I love the idea that I grew up with people saying that people were like giving away candy with drugs in it. That they're like, oh yeah, people putting LSD on stuff. And I remember being a kid thinking to myself, like, that sounds scary. And now as an adult thinking, what person would be so stupid as to waste LSD on children? This is a very self-debunking.
Fair point.
No one's going to waste perfectly good drugs on kids.
I think that a lot of conspiracies. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just saying, clearly a story made up by someone who never enjoyed LSD.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, so
I was thinking that a lot of conspiracy theories are self-debunking if you look at them closely.
Yeah, they on the face of them mostly they're pretty silly. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna do that, and then I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do afterwards. I don't know. I've had a cold this whole past week, and so it's kind of had me laid up. And I don't rest, so I'm just sitting there reading about Asherah or whatever. So I gotta figure out something Halloweenish to do. Maybe read some Lovecraft stories or something.
I think we're having some trick-or-treaters knocking on the door right now, actually.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
I think Ayat is. Yep. That's nice.
There we go.
Say hi to Ayat.
The game's afoot. Well, guys, I'll let you guys get to your Halloween. We should hang out more often rather than just on Halloween. We should figure out other.
Totally. This has been fun.
Yes.
Other spots to hang out and talk about whatever.
The meaning of life.
But yeah, we can do that.
Or
Or Asherah. Yeah, it's funny that someone's talking about their dog, dressing their dog up. But we have a outfit for Mississippi, and she has one costume, and it's a hot dog costume. It's great because she's like the dog. Yeah, it's just like she's. What's your dog? It's a hot dog. That's her costume.
Is she coming trick or treating with you?
She might, which maybe it depends on the neighborhood because some people are scared of pit bulls, and so, and then the truth of the matter is she's more scared of them than anything else.
Yeah, she's a lovely creature.
Yeah, she's a wonderful dog, laying down by the wood stove. All right, folks. Well,
This was nice.
let you guys get to your Halloweens. We've been on for an hour or so. Hope you guys all have a great Halloween. May have a spooky Shabbos.
Spooky Shabbos.
Spooky witchcraft.
Yeah. Enjoy your concert. Enjoy your movies.
We will.
And go get ready to go trick or treating, and I forgot what to do over there. So, all right, everybody. Well, I'm gonna see you guys
Lovely
next time
seeing you guys. Let's
the,
have
hang out
more. Let's have more like live stream chats about, I don't know,
Anything.
existential crisis and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, we can all give our advice for avoiding or dealing with existential crises, which will very likely induce an existential crisis in one of us or give other people existential crisis. Some people ask me like, are you a doctor? I'm like, yeah, but I can't help anybody. The best I can do probably is make them doubt whether they're really real or not. That's the best I got. Like if you have a medical condition, you're done. I can make you wonder whether you really exist or not. That's the best I can do.
Same.
All right, everyone. Well, everyone have a happy Halloween. Have a great Samhain if you celebrate Samhain. And see you next time for the next Esoterica live stream.
Bye.
Bye-bye.